Mission Church, welcome. I'm Sam Acho, and I am so glad to be here with you today. I am glad, but I'm a little bit confused and frustrated because they brought me in, a 6'3", 260-pound linebacker, to talk about gentleness. 6'3", 260 to talk about gentleness. At first, I was a little bit offended, right? Like in my sport, in my profession, I played NFL for the last 9 years in college at the University of Texas. In my sport, I didn't hear the word gentle one time. But me, at my core, yes, I'm a follower of Jesus, but man, I'm a gentle human being. But somewhere down the line, at least for me, something changed. I remember third or fourth year in the NFL, I came in as a rookie and I'm this guy, loving, kind. I want to be the guy and love people well and lead them well. But I noticed a lot of my friends and my teammates didn't really accept or appreciate that. And so day by day, little by little, moment by moment, I became a little bit more tough, more hard, less loving, and less kind. Remember even my 7th year in the NFL, I was on the Chicago Bears, and I was playing well, but I was angry. I was very, very angry. I was frustrated because it seemed like the people who were winning in the world were the ones who weren't gentle, they weren't kind, they weren't loving, they didn't show self-control. It seemed like they were the ones who were reckless and selfish and just they only cared about their personal wins. And so for whatever reason, I started to become that. We had a team meeting about halfway through the year, and I was playing really, really well, and our coach had actually given me a lot of accolades. Hey, everybody, look at Sam. Look how great he's playing. Look what he's doing. We actually had a team meeting before then, and we had a guy who came in and he spoke, and his speech was essentially, if anyone's seen Taken, it was about being a threat, a danger to your opponent. He talked about when you have the mentality of being your opponent's worst enemy, that's when you win. And so I said, yes, this is great. And I was going, and there was me, and there was just one other teammate. Mind you, I'm 6'3", 255, 260. I had another teammate named Akeem Hicks, who's about 6'5", 6'6", 335 on a good day. Really, he's 355 on a normal day and probably 365 on a heavier day. And he and I would butt heads. We had this team meeting, and our coach was showing my highlights, and he wasn't showing any of our teammates. You go to the locker room, and Akeem and I had actually just had a big disagreement the week before. We were still at odds, and so I finished that meeting, and I felt pretty good about myself. And I remember listening to that guy talking about being a nightmare, being a nightmare for your opponent. And so we were walking in the locker room, and I looked at Akeem. I figured I'm big, I'm bad, I'm tough. I'm going to prove myself and prove my strength to the world, to my locker room, to my team. I looked at Akeem, and I said, hey, Akeem, remember that speech that we just heard about us being nightmares for our opponent? He said, yeah. I told him, well, honestly, dude, you're a nightmare to your teammates sometimes. A nightmare to your teammates. I didn't say it out of love. I didn't say it out of care. I didn't say it because I was trying to be gentle. I really was trying to stir him up a little bit because the week before he had gotten this fight with this other team. It almost cost us the game. And I'm like, no, I'm the guy. I have to lead. I have to be the hero. I said, you're a nightmare to your teammates. He said, what did you say? What do you mean by that? And mind you, 6'5", 6'3", 260, 330, it was not going to go well. We got into a bit of a shoving match, right? Y'all see this table. He tossed the table in the locker room, and it was just me and him, and I really didn't know what to do. By the grace of God, and that's probably the only reason I'm still here, we had some teammates separate us. I was trying to be someone that I'm not. And yes, I understand that a lot of us may not be in NFL locker rooms. You may not be going against guys who are, 6 feet and 300 plus pounds, but oftentimes, even if it's not a physical anger or frustration or this just kind of rub that you have, sometimes it's an emotional one. Sometimes we use our words. Sometimes we use our fingers, Twitter, Instagram, comment section, because it seems like that always wins. Then I turn to Scripture. See, Proverbs 15, verse 1, it says this. It says that a gentle answer turns away anger, but a harsh word stirs up wrath. Doesn't matter if you're in an NFL locker room or in a business or at home with your kids or your kids to you or you to your parents or friends, a gentle answer stirs up anger. Who are you going to be? You see, in my life, I'd always kind of had this idea that I wasn't enough. I was big and I was fast and I was playing football and I was strong, but in my heart of hearts, I really just cared for people. My parents would joke all the time when I first started playing football. They said, man, Sam, you would knock somebody down and you would feel so bad, you would go and you would offer to pick them up. I didn't think twice about it. That was just me, and that was my character, and that was my nature. But I heard that so many times. I said, oh, no, I can't do that. I can no longer be that person. I can no longer be kind or gentle. As I mentioned at the beginning, I didn't hear the word gentle one time in my 9 years professional, 4 years in college, even going back to high school. It was frowned upon. It's frowned upon. But then I realized that at the end of the day, you have to be who God is calling you to be. I just signed a multi-year, multi-million-dollar contract in the NFL. I was going on my 8th year, and in a lot of ways, I had it made by the world standards, right? I just had this interaction. I'm leading my team. I'm grinding. I'm doing all the things. I signed this contract. Everything was going great on the outside, but on the inside, I was empty, struggling. I was hurting. That's what they don't tell you about the things that look sexy and brash and harsh and the Twitter fingers that turn into trigger fingers. They don't tell you the pain and loneliness that can reside. And so I had this contract and I had all the things and I was excited and I thought it was going to be great and I was empty. And I remember sitting down with one of my friends literally 1 week before we started training camp. I'm the starter. I'm the guy. I did all the things that the world said worked, but I was miserable. I wasn't loving my wife well. Wasn't loving my kids well. The amount of friends I had, I probably could count them on one hand, and it was going down day by day. And I'm sitting with my friend, and we're having a conversation, and I said, man, maybe I just need to get back to football. Our season starts in a week. I'm going to get back to training camp. Maybe I just need to get back to football. My teammates and my friends, and then everything will be okay, right? Then I'll feel full again. Then I'll feel alive. He looked at me and he said, Sam, if that's how you feel right now, I'm concerned about what happens when football ends for you, for when you retire. As I'm sharing this with him, out of nowhere, I just start to cry. I start to weep, and I'm starting to weep because I felt like I was carrying all this weight, this pressure, pretending, trying to fit in, trying to be like everyone else, not trying to be gentle or meek or show self-control or be like Jesus. I was trying to be like the world, and it wasn't working. And I'm sitting, and I'm crying in front of my friend. He's known me for 10 years. We did business together. He's helped me with different projects, and I'm in tears. He looks at me as we're talking, and he says, and oh, by the way, Sam, it's really nice to see you. It's nice to see you. See, just like Ramiro, my friend Lucas had seen the real me. The loving, the kind, the gentle, the one who yes, he fails, but shows self-control. The one who's pursuing Jesus. He had seen the real me. He said, it's nice to see you. And as I'm looking at him, I'm wiping my tears away. And it wasn't like the little simple cry. It was like the ugly, it was the ugly cry. It wasn't like the simple, like you see in movies. And I'm wiping my tears away. And he says, Sam, it's good to know that you're human. Good to know that you're human. And he looks at me as I'm sharing everything that's going on. He says, hey, you never know. Maybe God is writing a book in your life. And you may only be on chapter 2. He actually recommended I go talk to a counselor or a therapist. So I did. About a week later, the same day we reported a training camp, reported in the evening. And that morning I was sitting with a counselor. And as I'm sitting with this man, I'm figuring I'm going to just get in and get out. Like I check the box, do the thing. I'll be fine. It'll be great. I'm sitting and we're talking. I'm sitting, we're talking. I'm sitting, we're talking. He stops me. He says, Sam, I've got a question for you. I said, shoot, I'm ready. Sam, what do you do when you get angry? Well, that's easy. I just try not to get angry. Looks at me again. He says, Sam, what do you do? I'll ask you again, what do you do when you get angry? And I said, it's simple. I just try not to get angry. See, people knew me for my smile and the joy and the laughter and sometimes the fake. I said, I try not to get angry. He looks at me again. He says, Sam, everybody gets angry. So what do you do when you get angry? I saw there was no escape, no getting out. So all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I began to cry and to weep. Crying and I'm weeping and he says, Sam, breathe. Sam, breathe. He says, Sam, I'm going to put my hand on your chest. I need you to breathe. Hand on your stomach. I need you to breathe. Tears are flowing. I'm not sure what's going on. He looks at me, he leans in, he says, it's nice to see you, Sam. And oh, by the way, get used to hearing that. See, I believe that a lot of us are hiding. We're hiding, we're pretending. We don't think that gentleness, meekness, righteousness, self-control are going to win. And so we package it, we put it away, and we put on the masks, the figurative masks that we wear of freedom, and I'm going to say whatever I need to say, and I'm going to be in your face, and I'm going to fight the 6'5", 330, you know what I mean? We put that mask on when at our core, we're following Jesus. We want to be like him. We just don't know what to do. He looked at me, his counselor, and he says, it's nice to see you. He says, and oh, by the way, get used to hearing that. He recommended I start to journal, to listen to music, and so I did. I went to training camp that night. We had our quick team meeting. I went to my dorm room. I start journaling, and I start writing, and I'm not even sure what I'm writing about, not even sure what's coming out. Put on some music, and all of a sudden, now again, for the third time, the tears are flowing again. I call up my friend who told me, who said it's nice to see you initially, and I was like, dude, what is going on? I feel like I'm not in control. This space of like really being me and I don't know what to do. I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning, first day of practice, back with my team. We have our quick conditioning test, a couple 100-yard sprints, come back in the locker room, and I just felt that weight again. So I sit down. Guys are going in and out, take a quick shower. They're showering, they're running out, going to get some food, and I'm just sitting there. Sitting there. One of my teammates walks in. He sees me. He says, hey, Acho, are you good? You good? Most of the time, y'all know how it is, I would lie, pretend, yeah, I'm all good, things are great, it's a long day, long practice. This time I looked at him, I said, dude, I'm not doing good. I'm not doing good at all. Looked at me and he said, Sam, I don't know what you've got going on, but whatever it is, you need to let it out. Let it out. And all of a sudden, now in a locker room, my teammates, tears start to flow. I'm getting somewhere with this. So tears start to flow, and another one of my teammates walked in. He sees me weeping. He goes straight to the playlist in the locker room and changes it. Instead of, whatever we were bumping in the locker room, he changes it to songs, the same songs I'd been listening to the night before. I don't know how he knew. Songs about God's love for me. Songs about how God sees the real us. He sees the best in me. We start weeping even more. And then all of a sudden, that 6'5", 335-pound teammate who I would always get into it with, he walks in. He walks in. And if anybody knows me, and some of y'all might be this way as well, usually somebody like that walks in, you get it together, you figure it out, you're okay, you're not going to get laughed at or made fun of. I couldn't do it. So he walks in and I look at him. He looks at me and he says, oh, he's ready, right? Did I walk into something and they're ready to strike? And I get up and I look at him, tears in my eyes welled up. And I say, honestly, bro, I said, I would have never showed you this side of me. See, I could have hid, I could have pretended, I could have put it all together and said, no, I'm good. Hey, what do you want? No, I'm good. I said, honestly, you need to see me right now. You need to see me right now. I said, I would have never showed you this side of me. And he kind of was taken aback, and he responds, and he actually says, honestly, I probably didn't give you a good reason to show me. I hug him. He hugs me. I tell him to sit down because you're going to be here for a while. So he just sits and mourns with me. A gentle answer turns away anger. See, I think a lot of people, when you hear a word like gentleness, you think you just let someone walk all over you, and if somebody says something mean, you just kind of sit there and you don't say what needs to be said. But in all reality, gentleness is direct. Gentleness calls out what needs to be called out in truth and love, with grace. With grace. You know what he said? He said, Sam, it's nice to see you. You see, when we start exhibiting these fruits of the Spirit, we start walking like Jesus. Yes, it frees us up, but it also frees up those around us, our friends, our family members, our teammates, our coworkers, our children, and our children's children, even our parents, when you're you. See, I believe that God sees you, and God knows you, and God loves you, and he's also there for you, but I also believe that we tend to hide. We cower. We play small because we're afraid. We're afraid. I had always been afraid of what would happen if someone saw me knock someone down and then go and lift them up. Will they think less of me? Will they think that I'm a joke? I always wondered what would happen if someone saw this 6'3", 260-pound linebacker, and I'm laughing and smiling and being kind. So I would put on a mask. I wouldn't show my smile. I wouldn't be kind. I would try and be like everyone else. And God says, no, I already see you. I created you. I already know you. I'm with you. And I love you, every part of you. You don't have to be afraid anymore. You don't have to run. You don't have to hide. You'll know, like the fruits of the Spirit. Yes, they're clear, but also the things of the flesh. It's obvious. It's very obvious. There's no confusion. There's no doubt. You know that's not how Jesus calls us to live. But for whatever reason, we decide to go anyways because we're afraid. And God says, no, I want to call you out of fear and into freedom. I want to call you out of this hiding place and into the light. And John 1 talks about how Jesus is the light, and that light was the life of men. Jesus is the light. So what I'm asking you, I'm not asking you to change or to do anything different or be anything different. I'm asking you to bring in Jesus, bring in this light into your life. I have a 6-year-old son. His name is Caleb, and my 6-year-old son is afraid of the dark. He's afraid of the dark, and so every time it's bedtime, he says, Daddy, Daddy, can you turn the light on? And I put the light on. He's still afraid. Daddy, Daddy, can you sleep with me? And I'm like, son, you're 6. It should be okay. Daddy, can I sleep with you and Mommy? Daddy, I'm afraid. I have bad dreams when it's dark. Daddy, I'm afraid. I'm scared. And one thing I realize is that when I do decide to go and sleep with him, or when I say, it's okay, you can come and lay down with us, the nighttime still exists. The sun hasn't risen. It's still dark. But he's no longer afraid. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because thou art with me. When you live counterculturally, when you walk by the fruits of the Spirit, when you spend time in the Word of God, when you let people see the real you, it can be scary. But when you invite Jesus into that conversation, maybe in that valley of the shadow of death, but you will not fear because he is with you. That year would go on. After that conversation with my teammate, we hugged, and later on I would go on to tear my pec, be out for the season. I would lose my starting spot. Our house flooded. My wife's wallet got stolen a few weeks before our 5-year anniversary. We were going to take a trip overseas. I was going to go speak, and I was going to go do this football camp in Korea, and all of a sudden her passport, everything is stolen. And I lost a friend of mine, a friend and a mentor of mine. It's my next door neighbor from Arizona, and his name was Jerry Price. 70 years old, he'd been married for 50 years, had kids, had grandkids, had business, was killing it. He got cancer and it wasn't getting better. Posted a message on Facebook asking for permission to go. I saw the message, so I called up my friend. He'd been battling for 5 years. He said, I'm ready to see Jesus. I'm ready to go home. And I had known Jerry well. I would go to his house often and just get words of wisdom and words of advice. He'd been married for so long. I'd just gotten married. So I'd go and listen to him, and my wife would go and sit with his wife. We spent time together. He saw me. He knew me. So I pick up the phone. I say, Jerry, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? Like, what do you mean? You're ready to go home? What do you want me to do? Jerry was a gentleman. Jerry would be in your face. He would tell you the truth, but he would speak it in love. And so as I'm asking him, what do you want me to do? Give me some words of advice. Give me some wisdom. Give me something. He paused. He slowed down. He said, Sam, got 2 things for you. 2 things for you before I go. He said, Sam, the first thing I want you to know is that the most important thing you can do, the number one most important thing you can do on this earth is to get to know Jesus. Get to know Jesus. See, God takes no greater joy than you getting to know his son, and you get the benefit as well of getting to know Jesus, of walking by the fruit, of spending time in the Word, spending time in community, of showing self-control. Get to know Jesus. There's nothing better. And he said, the second thing I want you to know, Sam, these would be the last words that I ever heard from my dear friend, mentor, my brother. Looked at me and he said, Sam, you are worth getting to know. Never forget that. You are worth getting to know.